Hey everyone, it is Friday, November 7th. You are listening to the Mo News podcast. I am Jill Wagner. This is the place where we bring you just the facts. We read all the news and read between the lines so you don't have to. It is just me today, as you can probably tell. Moshe has been doing back-to-back podcast appearances. He did a Substack Live. He recorded the Ask Me Anything podcast on Thursday and some interviews as well for our interview feed. So he has no voice left. So he asked me to handle today's edition solo. By the way, he interviewed Ken Burns about his new 6-part documentary about the American Revolution. Moshe said it was one of his favorite interviews yet. So definitely check it out. And you'll also be able to hear the last vestiges of his voice. So that podcast is out now for premium subscribers. And if you have not signed up for premium yet, we are offering a 1-month free trial. And you could sign up over at mo.news/premium. Now to the headlines, a scramble across the travel industry as the FAA cancels flights amid the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. What you need to know if you are planning to fly. And a status update on the shutdown, why some Republicans are hopeful that it will end soon, possibly even today. To the economy, first-time homebuyers are older than ever. Why that matters. A new country is joining the Abraham Accords with Israel. We'll tell you which one and who could possibly be next. Plus, a case we've been following. Teacher Abby Werner has been awarded $10 million in her lawsuit against the assistant principal who failed to stop the 6-year-old who shot her. Obesity drugs like Ozempic may soon cost a lot less. The plan from the White House. And Nancy Pelosi says that she will not seek re-election. A look at her legacy in the House. And Starbucks has a new viral cup. It is in the shape of a bear. It is called the Bearista. It is apparently selling for hundreds of dollars online, with some people camping out in front of Starbucks for hours overnight just to get one. And it is Friday. Cheers to the freaking weekend, what we are watching, reading, and eating. Starting with the situation at the nation's airports, effective today, the FAA will start cutting scheduled flight capacity by 10% across 40 major airports, basically all the major hubs, including New York, Washington, Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas, and Los Angeles. The reason? Mounting strain on air traffic controllers who have been working without pay since the shutdown started on October 1st. As we reported yesterday, the FAA Administrator Brian Bedford said the agency is cutting flights to avoid any safety problems. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says air traffic controllers are stretched thin. They're calling out of work, some to pick up second jobs because they haven't had a paycheck since the shutdown started. Duffy was on Fox and Friends Thursday morning. He said fewer flights mean that more of them should run on time. There have been tons of delays because of the shortages, not only of air traffic controllers, but also the TSA agents who manage the security lines. Here is Duffy on Fox and Friends.
But I'm hopeful that we're going to have more on-time flights, less cancellations. But the main mission I have, Brian, is my mission number one is to keep people safe.
The flight reductions are expected during peak hours between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. But some experts say that even if you are flying out of an airport that doesn't have those reductions, there will likely be a domino effect across the entire system. So prepare for significant flight disruptions. The CEO of Frontier Airlines, he posted on Instagram telling travelers they should actually buy a second ticket from a different airline in case one flight is scrapped. So he says if you're headed to a wedding, a funeral, or something where you really need to be there, given the risk of flight cancellations, he said that he would suggest passengers buy a backup ticket on another carrier that departs after the first ticket. Airlines have been offering customers the ability to change or cancel flights without paying the usual fees. There's also some reporting that the flight cancellations are going to be phased in, starting with 4% cancellations today and then increasing a bit each day as the shutdown drags on. 4%, according to airline officials, is what you would see with a bad storm that is affecting more than one area. But the bottom line, as Moshe and I jokingly say, pack your patience. Today does mark day 38 of the shutdown, the longest in history. And for the first time, there does seem to be a little bit of hope that it could come to an end. Late Thursday, Politico reported that Senate Majority Leader John Thune has told fellow Republicans that he plans to hold a vote today to fund the government through January, which he believes will have the support of enough Democrats to pass, though the deal could still take days to hammer out. Also on the shutdown front, a judge on Thursday ordered the Trump administration to fully fund SNAP benefits by the end of the week. Today, SNAP food stamp benefits serve about 42 million people, or 1 in 8 Americans. They provide an average of $187 a month for groceries. The program costs the government about $8 billion a month. SNAP benefits were paused at the beginning of the month because of the shutdown. The Trump administration said that it could not legally use a $5 billion emergency fund to pay the benefits, but several federal judges have disagreed. Earlier this week, the Trump administration said that it would use the emergency funds to pay for partial benefits, but Judge Jack McConnell on Thursday rejected the idea of partially paying for the food stamps. He said, quote, "People have gone without for too long." Food banks and hunger relief organizations say that they've been seeing an increase in the number of people lining up for food packages and also calling helplines since SNAP was halted on November 1st. Okay, now to a story about the economy and housing market that we found pretty shocking. In just one generation, the dream of owning a home has been pushed from the late 20s to the early 40s. So the median age of first-time homebuyers is now 40 years old. That is up from 28 in 1991 and 33 just 5 years ago. That's according to some new data from the National Association of Realtors. There are a lot of factors at play here. Younger Americans are juggling student loans, rising rents, and higher living costs, which is making it nearly impossible to save for a down payment. And with historically low housing inventory, affordable homes are harder than ever to find. Only 21% of buyers are first-timers, roughly half the share before the 2008 housing crash. And there are huge societal and economic ramifications for delayed homeownership. Buying later means that people are building less wealth, moving less often, and delaying life milestones like having kids or switching careers. Time for the speed read, starting with some international news from Axios. Kazakhstan is joining the Abraham Accords that have normalized relations between Israel and many Muslim majority nations. Kazakhstan already has full diplomatic relations and economic ties with Israel, meaning that this is largely symbolic. The Kazakh government said in a statement, quote, "Our anticipated accession into the Abraham Accords represents a natural and logical continuation of Kazakhstan's foreign policy course, grounded in dialogue, mutual respect, and regional stability." Kazakhstan's president met with President Trump at the White House on Thursday night, alongside 4 other Central Asian leaders, as the U.S. is looking to gain influence in that region, which has long been dominated by Russia and increasingly courted by China. Kazakhstan is a majority Muslim nation, founded as an independent country in 1991, following the dissolution of the Soviet Union. Trump posted on Truth Social, quote, "Kazakhstan is the first country of my second term to join the Abraham Accords, the first of many." He says it's a major step forward in building bridges across the world, and that today more nations are lining up to embrace peace and prosperity through his Abraham Accords. The Abraham Accords brokered normalized relations between Israel and 4 Arab nations, the United Arab Emirates, or the UAE, Bahrain, Morocco, and Sudan. It was a signature foreign policy achievement of Trump's first term. Up until then, only 2 Arab nations officially recognized Israel, Egypt and Jordan. For the Trump administration, bringing in regional players like Saudi Arabia and even Syria is a very big priority, but it's certainly going to be more delicate diplomatically. The Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is planning to visit D.C. on November 18th. Syria's new president is also visiting D.C. this month. Officials acknowledge it will likely take a bit of time to broker a deal with Saudi Arabia. The first Trump administration and the Biden administration had tried, and they were reportedly pretty close before the Hamas attacks on October 7th, 2023. From the New York Post, a Virginia jury has found a former elementary school administrator liable for $10 million in the shooting of a first-grade teacher by a 6-year-old student nearly 3 years ago. Former first-grade teacher Abigail Zwerner sued Ebony Parker, the former vice principal of Rich Neck Elementary School in Newport News, Virginia, for gross negligence. Zwerner said Parker failed to act on multiple warnings that the 6-year-old boy had a gun and was acting alarmingly the day of that January shooting in 2023. After 5 hours of deliberation on Wednesday and Thursday, the 7-person jury ruled in favor of Zwerner. She had been seeking $40 million in damages. Parker sat stoically as the verdict was read out. Zwerner looked as if she was possibly trying to hold back tears. Her lawyer, Jeffrey Brait, saying after the verdict that this case was about more than just this one particular school shooting.
School safety, teacher safety, children's safety is the most important thing. This verdict reminds people that you will be held accountable if you don't make that your first concern.
Zwerner's legal team argued that the buck stopped with Parker and that it was her job to investigate reports from students that the boy had brought a gun to school that day. Parker's lawyer argued that no one could have predicted what would unfold, that a child so young would have access to a gun, bring it to school, and shoot a teacher. The boy, again, just 6 years old. He was not criminally or civilly charged. His mother, however, was sentenced in 2023 to 2 years in prison for child neglect after her son took that 9mm handgun out of her purse. From the Mo News Substack, Representative Nancy Pelosi will not be seeking re-election next year, ending a nearly 40-year congressional career that saw her make history as the first and only woman Speaker of the House and one of the most powerful figures ever to serve in the U.S. House. Pelosi is 85 years old. She is a Democrat from California. Here's a bit of her video to constituents. She represents the San Francisco area.
With a grateful heart, I look forward to my final year of service as your proud representative.
The decision comes just 2 days after California voters approved Proposition 50. That's a redistricting measure backed by Pelosi. It is expected to give Democrats up to 5 new House seats. Prop 50 was a response to a Texas redistricting plan to add 5 Republican seats in that state. Pelosi is known for her iron grip on the Democratic caucus and for her legislative skill. She steered major bills like the Affordable Care Act and the Inflation Reduction Act through Congress. And even some of her political rivals recognized her influence. Former Republican Speaker Newt Gingrich said back in 2021 that, quote, you could argue that she has been the strongest speaker in history. So this is interesting. She actually entered politics after she raised her 5 children. So a bit of a second act for Nancy Pelosi. She won a special election to the House in 1987. She stepped away from House leadership after Democrats lost the House majority in 2022, and also under pressure to hand the reins to a younger generation. She was also credited with the behind-the-scenes effort to force President Biden off the 2025 ticket. From the AP and the New York Times, certain obesity drugs will be available for as little as $149 a month, and more Medicare enrollees will have access to them under 2 deals announced Thursday by the Trump administration. Here is President Trump at a press conference in the Oval Office.
Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk are committing to offer Zepbound and Wegovy at most favored nations rates for American patients. This will slash the cost of Wegovy from $1,350 a month to ultimately $250 a month.
Under the conditions of the deals, people who buy GLP-1 injectable medications directly from the companies will pay between $50 and $350 a month for the drug, depending on their insurance plan. This is according to an official. The copay for patients enrolled in Medicare will be as low as $50, according to Trump. And that is a lot less than what they currently cost. Existing obesity drugs run anywhere between $1,000 to $1,300 a month before insurance. We've reported here Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly are both testing daily oral pill versions of their medications, which could result in cheaper and more convenient alternatives to weight loss medication on the market. Trump says that once those drugs are approved, they'll be available to Americans at the lowest dose, starting at no more than $150 per month. And he also announced a new direct-to-consumer website, TrumpRx.gov. He says it'll be up and running by January, where Americans can purchase the GLP-1 drugs directly from the website. Trump says these GLP-1 drugs are a triumph that will save lives and improve the health of millions and millions of Americans. At one point, he went around asking members of his administration that were standing in the room if they are on the GLP-1 drugs. He said several members of his cabinet are taking them, and he specifically mentioned Communications Director Stephen Chung. And from NBC News, Starbucks' new bear-shaped drinking vessel is going viral. Many stores have sold out of it, and some are actually reselling on eBay for hundreds of dollars. So on Thursday, the coffee giant officially launched its holiday menu and seasonal cups at stores around the country, in addition to the return of some of their beloved drinks like the caramel brulee latte and the peppermint mocha. Festive drinkware and gifts are also available. And one item has really gotten the internet talking: the glass Starbucks Bearista cold cup that is bear, B-E-A-R, because it's in the shape of a bear. It is a 20-ounce cup. It costs $29.95. And again, it is shaped like a classic teddy bear wearing a Starbucks green knitted beanie. It promises to bring instant joy to every sip. And people all over the internet are scrambling to get their hands on the limited time item. One person writing on Instagram, "I hate coffee, but I would get coffee just for this." At some locations, the cups quickly sold out. Staffers at Today.com in Washington and New York checked out a few different spots. They said the Bearistas were sold out by 8 a.m. The Starbucks at 30 Rockefeller Plaza in New York City said that people were lined up even before the store opened at 4:50 a.m. to get their hands on the Bearista cup. There are videos on TikTok of disputes and even physical altercations over the item. On resale sites, the cup is being listed for black market-like prices. eBay has a listing for $200 a cup. On another site, it's as high as $800 a cup. Starbucks not yet saying whether or not they are going to restock the popular cups. They are cute. And finally, it is Friday. Cheers to the freaking weekend. Time for what we are watching, reading, and eating. Moshe says he's going to be watching the new documentary series, The American Revolution, a 6-part, 12-hour film that explores the war for independence from various perspectives. Like I said at the top, Moshe said that his interview with Ken Burns was one of the best he has ever done. So in preparation for the documentary series, I suggest listening to Moshe's interview with Burns. That will be available for premium subscribers today. And we're offering a 30-day free trial, mo.news/premium. I'm going to be watching over on Peacock Wicked One Wonderful Night. So the second part of the Wicked adaptation, Wicked for Good, doesn't come out for a couple of weeks, but this is a 2-hour musical TV event that features Ariana Grande, Jeff Goldblum, Cynthia Erivo, and I'm basically just looking for anything I can watch with my daughter at this point, so I think she'll enjoy that. Okay, as for what we're reading, Moshe is reading The Finest Hotel in Kabul by Lyce Dossett, who is a BBC journalist. This is the story of Afghanistan through what was once its fanciest hotel, the Intercontinental. It survived the Soviet occupation, the first rise of the Taliban, and then the American occupation. As for me, I read this really fascinating article from the New York Times. It is called The Debate Dividing the Supreme Court's Liberal Justices. Actually, a bunch of us on the Mo News team read it, Lauren and Sari also. It talks about the divide amongst the court's liberal justices, specifically Justices Elena Kagan and Ketanji Brown Jackson, and how they have different approaches in terms of being in the minority. Kagan, who wants to invest in diplomacy inside of the court, Jackson, who is sounding the alarm outside of the court. Just a really interesting look. Okay, now for what we're eating. Moshe is eating Alex's butternut squash soup. She has posted the recipe on her Instagram. Check it out at ALSAL, ALSALL. I am sure it is delicious if I know Alex. And I actually decided to follow a recipe from this Instagram account that I follow at Filling Meals. He made this healthy version of an apple crisp, and he made it look so easy and good. So I decided to try it, and I have to say it was delicious. I made some minor tweaks. I will post the recipe, my tweaks, the final product over on my Instagram account at Jill R. Wagner. I will do that if I have time today or over this weekend. And if you know me, you know I am not really a great cook. So if I could make it, you can definitely make it. Check out my Instagram for the whole recipe. All right, everyone, that is it for this solo podcast. Thank you for listening to the Mo News Podcast. If you like what you hear, please share this with your friends. It helps us grow. Follow us, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and review us in the App Store. And have a wonderful weekend. See you back here on Monday.
Thanks for listening to the Mo News Podcast. Have a fantastic day. I hope you enjoyed.